Hey everyone, it's Jonathan from Motorpsychology. Welcome back to the channel. Special welcome to the returning viewers and also to the new viewers who may have stopped by. Really appreciate your support and thanks for watching. So in today's video, it's going to be about finishing up the front right suspension components on the C3 Corvette. So we're going to be putting in the shock absorber, the steering knuckle, and also the wheel hub assembly as well. And that should wrap it up. I'm also doing the front left suspension at the same time off camera. So by the time I get the front right done, the front left is done and everything's good to go. So stick around for this video and let's see how it goes. So the spring is in place here. I'm going to jack the control arm up a little bit more because I want to have space between the upper control arm and the lower control arm so that I can put in the steering knuckle. And that's going to be something that I'm going to be doing once I get this in place. So I'll be putting in the steering knuckle while this is still compressed. So what I've got here is the steering knuckle. That's going to be the first part to go on, and this is the top and that's the bottom of it. So let's put that in. So this is the steering knuckle which has to go in. So the bottom goes, or the top goes in here and the other one goes under there. So just going to get ready to do that. All right, take this out. Just going to leave this on so this stays in position. So you can see how much I need to raise the lower control arm here. About 6 inches or so. So I'm going to try and jack it up. I might need to use a different jack. So I'm just getting ready to switch out this smaller jack and put in a larger jack that will give me more height as I raise the control arm. So I've got the new jack in there and I'm going to start raising that lower control arm. See if you can notice what happens when I do this. Yeah, the entire Corvette is being raised, and that's not what I want to happen at this point. So I was having a look to see what exactly was going on, and it turns out that the shaft of the spring compressor needs to go through the hole for the shock absorber. And I knew that, and I thought I had it lined up, but it clearly wasn't. So I had to reset and put the shaft through the hole where the shock absorber goes, and then hopefully it's good to go. Okay, my spring is still in place. I'm trying to crank this up to get this steering knuckle in the lower ball joint. And I only have, I don't know, 2 inches. See how it goes. Getting close. All right, getting ready to put the steering knuckle on, and I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on here, not too much. And the same with the lower one. After that, I'll grab this steering knuckle and it's going to go on the bottom and the top at the same time. So whoops, before we do that, we got to put on the boot for the bottom one here. There we go. It's pretty good. And I'm going to stick this on here. Holds that in place. Crank this up. This will go all the way up until it doesn't turn anymore. Then you'll know it's ready. Getting close. There we go, and I like to line up one of the castle nuts with the hole. And then we can do the same for the bottom. Tighten this up a little bit. All right, steering knuckle is on. And pop the cotter pin in on this one. Just going to bend this cotter pin back here. And I'll do the same with the top. Bend that back. So as you can see, everything is pretty good in there. I'll be able to undo this thing shortly. And I've got that going through the shock absorber slot. So this is the top of the spring tensioner. So sometimes you can do it the other way around and have the actual nut in here. But with my air conditioning unit on there, I didn't want to move it. So I kind of put it in upside down. It doesn't really matter. It's a little bit more difficult, I guess, to do it this way, but for me, easier because of the air conditioner compressor. So now I can literally take this tension off the spring, but I'm going to put a couple other things on the steering knuckle first. One of the gaskets that I have to redo is this gasket, which goes on the steering knuckle spindle, and it's old and broken. I thought originally I'd be able to reuse it, but not going to be the case. So I've got some high temperature gasket material, and it's the perfect replacement. So I'm just going to trace that out and cut out a new one. The price of the gasket material here was maybe $10, so not very expensive. But there's always something, isn't there? So we're going to grab this guy here, and let me just cut out a square here. There we go. Put this away. Just going to put this on top. Make an outline. Let's trace this out on the gasket material. There we go. Cut that out. There we go. Got the replacement gasket. It's pretty cool. So we're back here at the steering knuckle, and this is where that gasket goes. Goes over this thing here. So it might be a tiny bit tight, or not. No, that's great. I think. Maybe a little tight in one area. There we go. So there's that gasket material in there. Okay, these are the next things to go on the steering knuckle. This is going to go on the steering knuckle like that. And this thing connects to the tie rod end when that's done. This is just the brake dust shield. And this thing here is just a guard that's going to go on there as well. So the bolts here are these guys here. And this big one here for that guy there. So I'm going to move on to do that right now, and you'll notice that one of these things is longer with less thread and the other one is shorter with more thread. So the one that is longer with less thread is eventually going to go through this thing here, and the one that is shorter goes through this one, which is not quite as thick. So you'll see that when I install it. So I'm going to move over and do that right now. Okay, I'm going to start the process here, which is not too difficult. You just have to do it in a certain order as we progress through here. So this part here fits up there, but we also have to put the steering knuckle in there as well. Leave these in just to give me a slight hand here. There we go. So I'm going to put this part on here. And then this is going to go in just temporarily. Like that. Now that's in, I can take this top part off. Leave something in there to keep that in place. Now putting the dust cover in place here as much as I can. And put this in loosely. And then I can come back and grab this guy out of here. Sit this down. Rethread it all. There we go. Through this guy. Perfect. So one more to go through. So one on the bottom here. The longer one with the shorter thread on it. I can go through there like so. Now I can start tightening it up. These bolts here are tightened at 70 foot-pounds, so I'll be getting around to doing that in a sec. All right, Everything's in there pretty well. So this is going to be tightened up to 70 foot-pounds. Holding this. Doing the same on this side. So that's kind of hand tight right now. Tighten this guy up here. That's in there. These are on hand tight. So now I'm going to torque those to 70 foot-pounds. Looking pretty good. All right, we're back again, so can torque those up to 70 foot-pounds, which I'm going to do right now. There we go. And we'll do the other one on the other side. All right, doing the inboard one, I guess. If I have room. It's a little tight spot here. There we go. That was pretty easy. Just to look at the inside portion of it there. Here's it all together. It's looking pretty good. And remember, I still have the compression on the spring, which I can pretty much take out right now. So I'm going to do that. And everything else should fall into play nicely. So here's the upper control arm, here's the wheel spindle and brake component, and the lower control arm is down there with the spring. So time to get the spring released from the spring compressor, and then we're good to go on this one. So now I'm just getting the spring compressor out. The stand is on there. So I've taken the shaft and the bottom one out, and now I'm just fishing this one out, which is in there somewhere. Just a matter of getting it unhooked from the spring. There we go. Should be able to drop it right through. Excellent. So what we have here is the spring is in, the front steering knuckle is in place. I do need to put the shock in it. So for now, I'm going to lower that control arm and see how things go. That's it. Not too bad. Got a loaded spring in there. So here's the shock that is going to go in there, and this one is too easy to put in. It just goes up the middle, and secures on the top. So that's what I'm going to do with that. Comes with some instructions there. Just going to have a look at those. So the way this setup is this goes up to where the frame meets it, and then once it goes through the frame, this part then goes down on it like so, and that's the top of it. So that's kind of the setup, and we'll get that in. So this is torqued to 45 foot-pounds, and I'm just going to do that right now. That one's at 45. Just going to back it off a little. There we go. This is this one on. And I'm just going to bend those over. And I'm going to do the bottom one. So here is underneath the control arm. The shocks go up through this hole, and there's two retaining bolts or screws that go in there. So I'm going to do that, and it's just a matter of sticking the shock up there and attaching that. So let's give that a try. These guys here are 1/2 inch, so they'll go in there, but first let's stick the shock up. Before I do it, you want to make sure that you've got the metal part on the bottom and the first little bushing there, and then line it up, stick it through. Okay, we're up looking at the upper control arm, and this is where the shock has popped through the frame. So now we're just putting on the bushing here, making sure that it's oriented the right way around, and that just goes on top of the shock there. And after that, we're putting on the cap and then the nut. I'm going to hand tighten that for now, and then I'm going to come back and tighten the bottom bolts and also the top. So once again, this is where the shock is going in, and I just want to make sure I get those things in threaded properly. All right, got one in there. Just going to tighten this a little bit. And get the other one in. It's going in fine. Put an extension on. All right, the bottom of the rear shock is in. So now I'm going to go up to the top and finalize that. So this is a 9/16. You can put that on. There you go. The shock is tightened in there. I may adjust that once I start driving this around, but you've now got your control arm in, obviously, and the shock in. So looking at this now, you've got the entire front end put back together. Looks good. Still got to be greased, which I'm going to do. And also you've got the new spring and shock in there, new bumper. So it all looks pretty good. Okay, I'm just going to put some grease into the ball joints and just using this grease gun here. Hopefully it will fit. This thing just needs to be depressed on that nipple there and just pump it in. I'm just going to pop this one in here. So we've got the upper ball joint done and we've got the lower ball joint done there, right down here. They're filled up. All right, getting ready to put the wheel hub on the spindle. And I've got this thing cleaned off. This is the castle nut. Got a cotter pin here. And from the last video is the actual hub. So it's got the bearings all greased, ready to go on. So it's just a matter of sliding that on and putting the castle nut on top. So before I do that, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of grease on these surfaces here, just a little bit. I'm going to use the same stuff I did before, which is this red stuff. And when I mean just a tiny little bit, just putting that on around here. That will be perfect. So getting this ready, I'm just going to take off the saran wrap. This guy here doesn't need to be on right now. Just gonna pop this off. And there's the back end like that. So literally it just slides right on here. Like that. So as you can see there, it's ready to go. It's all packed, good to go. So the next thing you have to do is put on this. Doesn't really matter what side you put it on. This looks like it was the outside. So that just goes on like this. Stays in that little groove there. Then you can hand tighten the castle nut on. This kind of goes on hand tight. So that's hand tight there, and then you can just back it off a little bit. So for this here, it goes on 12 foot-pounds at the max. So because it's 12, you can tighten it up by hand and then just back it off so you can find the hole there. So inside there, I don't know if you guys can see it, is the hole for the cotter pin right there. So I'm going to put the cotter pin in there. All right, let's stick this in here. Bit greasy with the old stuff there. And then you just want to bend those things back. So a good way to do it is just to grab these. Just trying to keep it away from the threads there as much as possible. So the cotter pin will keep that in place. This is in place now, looking good. And now I'm going to put the cap on this thing. So that's my brand new cap, which I'm going to put on. I'm going to try not to dent it, and we'll get that on. So front wheel bearing cap, 1969 to 1982. So I'm just going to put a light film of grease on it and then tap that in. So once again, just sticking a little bit around here. Perfect. Right there. And then that is just going to go on like this. All right, getting ready to put the dust cover on. It's lubed, and I'm just going to tap it in right here. It's important to try and get it on flush if possible. It makes it easier. There we go. You can go around the edge with a screwdriver or a little scraper like this, and that helps put it in without damaging this part. You can see it slowly recessing in now. So there's your hub, nicely on there. There's your brand new dust cap, which looks great. The entire thing looks pretty good, actually. There's your entire assembly as it is right now. Ready for the disc and the brake to go on. So that's pretty good. The whole front right. Now that's together, I get to work on the front left, which I'm probably going to do off camera, and it'll take me a lot faster to get it done. So that's perfect. I like that a lot. This is what I wanted to show before I conclude this video. So this is all the stuff for the left side. So I took this off the Corvette maybe a month ago and have done the same thing as far as restoring that and getting all the parts done. Got the wheel hub here, new bearings and races in just like the other one. That one's good to go. Got some of the steering components, steering knuckle done. This plate here, which is also done in a golden engine paint, so it's going to be high heat. It's a little bit gold, but you don't really see it anyway. It's at least looking nice and clean. We've got the control arms, upper and lower, ready to go as well. So yeah, it was a lot of off-camera work to get all this stuff done, but I want to get it in the side of the Corvette as soon as possible. Hey everyone, that concludes this video on the final installation of the lower right suspension. So what you saw in this video was the installation of the shock absorber, the steering knuckle, and also the wheel hub on the right side. I also showed you the stuff that I've been doing off camera as well, which is the refurbing of the left side upper lower control arms, putting in new bushings, and then refreshing and redoing all the other components as well. So it's ready to go. I've also held off on the stabilizer video, which I have 99% edited, until I finish the left side. Then I'm going to install the stabilizer bar, so you're going to see all that in there. So hopefully you guys find these videos useful, entertaining, and you can see some of the stuff that some of us are out here doing on these awesome C3 Corvettes. Other than that, we'll see you back here next time.